It's okay to fail yourself forward, but if you're just going to sit back and just say, I have to get every detail right, I have to know everything and make everything, then what's happening is the people who aren't doing that are already doing what you want to do, and they're making money buying houses and doing all this stuff in real estate investing, and you're still trying to create this perfect system. And all of a sudden time goes by and you could be where they are and where you want to be, thinking they created a perfect system, but they never did. They just took action, and you're just sitting here waiting. And people get afraid to pull the trigger, and I understand why. But you don't have to do anything enormous to get into the game. You can just start by making small steps and being consistent. One small step will lead to another small step, right? It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and just kind of how you have to look at it, in my opinion, anyway.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 102 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, we have the great pleasure of chatting with Jeremy Beland, the absolutely awesome of his company, NH Homebuyers. He also has a New York branch called Western New York Homebuyers. What's going on, Jeremy? Super excited to have you on here, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for the great introduction. It was really nice of you. I'm really excited to be here, and congratulations on this podcast, man. That's good stuff.
Thank you so much. It means a lot, man. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm really excited to be here. I know your real estate journey is on its great path to success, which is always cool to see. I hope on this podcast I can help provide some value, hopefully just motivate some people to get into the game and not stand on the sidelines. That's what I really inspire to do.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. So to kind of jump in, my friend, tell us a little bit about your backstory, like kind of how you got started in real estate. Like, tell us your tale.
Well, one day I just woke up with a silver spoon in my mouth, and my family just gave me a ton of real estate and said, "Hey, go be successful."
Yes.
Yeah. I wish it was all that easy. Honestly, I come from very humble backgrounds. I was, a troubled kid. Got into a lot of trouble in school. It was kind of had some struggles as adolescence into my teenage years. I ended up not even graduating high school. Got my GED. Was able to take some college classes. But I say that because I want to let people know that in order to be successful in this business, you don't have to be, highly college educated. Not to say you shouldn't be educated, but not educated as far as typical schooling and things of that nature. Anybody can be successful in this business. I came from humble backgrounds. My family was very, very, poor, for the most part. And, we struggled. We moved around a lot as a kid, which I think gave me the ability to really learn how to talk to people, because I was just constantly going to new schools and things of that nature. Then I was able to overcome a lot of that. And despite a troubled youth and some brush ups with the law and some other bad things, I was able to get my act together, in my early 20s. And I went from being a high-rise window cleaner in Boston, hanging off the skyscrapers, washing windows every day, to basically selling printers and copiers. And it kind of just gave me my first real taste of the professional lifestyle. And turned out I was pretty good at sales, although I didn't own a tie or a jacket or a suit or anything in my entire life. So I had to go buy one for this job interview. I kind of went there, and then, I met a girl, my ex-wife, and we got married, had 2 kids. We were playing middle-class America, suburbia. Life was great. I made a good 6-figure income and commission-only sales, but I was really good. And, life was just great. And then, really right before the recession, I ended up switching jobs in 2008 to go with another company, because the owner of the company that I was working for the previous 6 years or so died. And there was some weird unknown about the uncertainty of the future of that company. So I had an opportunity to go somewhere else. Well, I did that, and within a year, the Great Recession happened. And, my ex-wife at the time, we put on a big addition on the back of our house. We spent all this money, we refinanced and life was great. A year later, I found myself without a job. I found myself $150,000 upside down in equity in this house. I couldn't find a job anywhere. I had 2 young kids. I started going into depression. I used to stay home all day and just, we had phone books back then. Well, Google wasn't really much of a thing back then. And I would go through the phone book and try to find sales jobs to say, hey, hire me. And, and I just couldn't find anything at that time. But leading up into that time, I started to get a little bit more into my entrepreneurial side. And back then, again, they didn't have podcasts back then, but what they did have is CDs you could go rent at the library to throw in your car. So when I was driving a lot for my sales jobs of that nature, so I listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and some of the Robert Kiyosaki stuff that led me to some other stuff. And then, I got into this direct marketing thing. I had some minor success in that, but wasn't really a good team that I was under. And then, somebody on the direct marketing things had said, hey, I got 2 free tickets to a weekend seminar. And back then the weekend seminars was, hey, you show up on a Friday, we'll give you just enough information to sell you to stay for the weekend, and if you stay for the weekend, we'll sell you on a highly priced course at the end. That turned out to be Trump University of all things.
Wow.
The training, and I learned a lot about real estate investing. And I was like, whoa, my mind was like, after reading those other books and stuff, I knew I wanted to get into real estate investing, knew that I wanted to be a rental property owner, I wanted to be a landlord. That was really my goal. I didn't really want to get into flipping or wholesaling, even though I didn't really even know what wholesaling was then. So that was kind of the plan. And I just started getting into some coaching and some training under Peter Condon at that time. And then just my whole world fell apart. And at the time, the market fell apart. So what I was being taught then to do was to go lock up properties on the MLS below market value and then try to sell them to buyers, which is wholesaling, but wholesaling off the MLS. It's just the way they did it back then. And I just, I would run some local newspaper ads for marketing and stuff like that. And but needless to say, none of that stuff was really working. The banks weren't doing anything. My house was in the process of foreclosure. I was trying to refinance it and do loan modifications. And back then, they weren't doing any of that. And we'd get really close with one mortgage process all over. But to make a long story short, 2009 going into 2010, found myself without a job, about to lose my house, and I didn't have many options. So what I did was, because I knew enough about real estate investing, I found a real estate investor to come short sale my house. And it prevented me from going into foreclosure and bankruptcy, which would have devastated my credit for 7 years. I definitely took a hit in my credit, but it wasn't devastating for about 3 years as a result of it. And in the process, that guy really helped us out a lot by, we sold our a pool to him, some refrigerators, and like a shed, and just different things he was giving us cash for that we desperately needed. And at this time, I actually joined the military. I was 33, almost 34 years old, and I joined the Air Force because I couldn't find a job anywhere else, and I couldn't afford to go back to school. So I thought I'd just go back to try to get some education, because if you remember earlier in this podcast, I said I don't have a high school or college education. So back then, trying to get through the gatekeepers to get a job, they wouldn't even look at you unless you had a 4-year degree, because all these highly successful, well-trained people were taking less of jobs because that recession, there just wasn't much available then. So it was a really, really tough time, and at the end of the day, I lost it all. And, I went into depression, went into the military. I was in basic training at almost 34 years old with kids 17 years old. Training instructors that were 22 yelling at me that I was a piece of dirt, but it was great. It allowed me to, work on myself, which I desperately needed at that time, and start to rebuild myself, which I did. Just prior to that, though, I actually ended up wholesaling my very first house for $500 that my ex-wife at the time was able to take that money, which back then was like a couple weeks of groceries for our young kids. So it was great. I went away to the military. I came back. My wife and I at that point were together about a year, but we had a lot of struggles, and we ended up getting divorced. I got myself another sales job and got myself to a point where, in 2013, 14, and 15, and even 16, I was making really good money again, but I was hit in this situation where I was approaching 40 years old. My time in the military was coming to an end because I was Air National Guard, which meant I was doing the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year thing. And although I could be very successful in sales, there was just no end in sight. I wasn't going to retire. There was no 401k. I didn't like traveling all over the country, which I was doing. I didn't really like my boss at the time, to be honest. This wasn't for me. And as I was getting older, a lot of people in my generation, a little older, I started seeing them work for companies for long periods of time. And then they were just being let go. And it's like some of these people work 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they would just let go with nothing because they just hired somebody much younger, give that person the workload at a much lesser price. And it just kind of dawned on me, like, nothing in your future is certain. So I wanted to take more control. I've been taking control of my life with regards to getting through the depression, getting through the recession. My income for like the better part of my 15 years prior to that being commissions only, I was in charge of that. I would go cold call and generate leads, create those customers and everything else to service those accounts. So I had to take control. And, you know, I said, I listened to real estate investing again on my podcast. Now, CDs are outdated. Mid 2015, 16, the podcast, I started to make a thing. And I was traveling, I started listening to different things. I was like, do I want to flip? I still want to be a landlord? I don't really know where to go. I don't have much money. And I came across a podcast of Tom Kroll called Wholesaling Inc. And it changed my life. And, you know, after listening to it about a year, afraid to pull the trigger, which I wish I did sooner, I decided my townhouse, which I was living in, again, divorced for a couple of years, living with my two kids, you know, 50% of the time. I took that townhouse, I sold it, made a little bit of equity. I think I had like $15,000 or something, paid off some credit card debt. I paid $5,000 for the Wholesaling Inc. coaching program, took my $6,000 and then started my business with my LLC, my contracts, and my first marketing and my my website. And I hit the ground running. And that was January of 2017. Moved my kids into a little 2-bedroom crappy apartment in Derry. And, you know, and the next thing you know, I was off and running, did 10 wholesales my first year. And it just grew and grew and grew to a point where I quit my job a few years later. And now we own multiple markets. You know, I do own land. I am a landlord with rental portfolio that's slowly growing. I've flipped houses and we wholesale a ton, and it's growing into this big thing. But it all started with me basically, you know, burning the boat once I got to the island, and I was all in. And so that's kind of my story.
Wow, man, that's absolutely incredible. One of the things like that I wanted to pick through in there, because there's a ton in there.
There is a ton. I'm sorry, it's kind of long-winded.
That's beautiful. No, that's awesome. I love it. One of the things that stuck out to me, man, that surprised me was like, you know, how, you know, some of like your peers and people that, you know, when you guys were like, you know, like working in these companies for like, you know, a wicked long time and everything, like how fast, like they just let people go. You know, and like, how, like uncontrollable that is. And it's like, oh, you know, like this company's been around for forever. Like I got 20, 30 years in here. Like I'm all good. And then that's it. You know, like good luck. That's unbelievable.
You know, the day and age of getting a government or, you know, state or town position and retiring from a pension, those days are pretty much over. Some people still do that, but they're very few and far between. They're a minority. It's very difficult to get yourself a job with a company that's going to be around. Most of the reasons why most companies don't even survive 30, 40 years anyway. You know, a small percentage of them actually even last that long, regardless of how much success they have. So, you know, it's very common for people to kind of bounce around. And, you know, I found myself in that position. It's like I made good money, but I was still living paycheck to paycheck. I'm looking at my 401k. I'm like, even if I had $1 million in my 401k, you know, making like over $100,000 a year. I mean, I cash that out. I live what, for 10 years and maybe stretch out for 20 at $50,000 a year. I mean, it was going to take me forever to get to $1 million. And as we've seen recently with the stock market, you may have close to $1 million in there. The next thing you know, you wake up next morning at 600,000. Because it takes you another 7 years to get back there. You know, so I just wanted to have more control. Nothing is certain in this life. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that I could put as much certainty in my own corner as I could for my own strengths, I guess.
Totally, man. I totally agree with you. You know, and like even like to take those like sales skills and stuff that, you know, you've had for like so long, you know what I mean? And like be able to just use it towards something that, you know, is certain, you know, like the business that you have now. And like, you know, just know that like, you know, like this has worked out a ton before. Like everything's been fantastic. Like everything's growing like a ton. and like you don't have that boss on top of you that like, oh, like maybe like he'll get fired, maybe he won't, or like the corporate structure and
yeah, I mean, the owner of that company then, I was worried that he was just, he was getting old. He may sell it to his son. And his son was like, I'm just going to cash in. I'm out of here. I'm going to Bermuda for the rest of my life. You just never know how that stuff's going to shake out. And, I just want to say, though, I was blessed to have some ability to talk to people. And, although, my grammar has been a work in progress my whole entire adult life, I've always not been afraid to talk to people. However, you don't need to be really good talking to people, be successful in real estate investing. I think that's really important. Even if you do the sales side of things like wholesaling, which we do, a majority of the sales guys that I have work for me don't even come from sales backgrounds, and they're tremendous at talking to people. You have to just be willing to do things that you're uncomfortable with and be a student of coaching.
I love that so much, man. And
just wanted to share that. What's that? I'm sorry.
No, I love that, man. That's absolute gold right there. I love it. So to your point, man, there's a group that you might be familiar with. It's called REI Ignition.
Yeah. Gordon and all those guys.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm a part of that group, and we just did a 3-day weekend like this.
I saw on social media.
Man, like absolutely changed my life. But my point being, one of the huge takeaways that I learned from this weekend is like, like there's like the tactical real estate stuff, like the mailers and the calls and like follow up and all that fun stuff. But that might not necessarily be the hard part. The hard part might be what's actually in your head and like, the self-limiting beliefs and like believing that you can't do it and like, like just holding yourself back, you know what I mean? And it was really an eye-opener, like, just to be able to, like, you can do this, and like we're so much more capable of like everything that we might have in our heads and everything. And
100%. Yeah. I think we all have limited beliefs and they hold us back on some level. And I'm still guilty of that today. It's actually something I continuously strive to get better at. It's a constant work in progress. But as we mentioned to start this podcast, I hope to inspire people to get in the game rather than sit on the sidelines, right? Yeah. There is not going to be what I call a unicorn. There's no perfect deal. There's no perfect situation. They don't exist, right? There's going to be some levels of risk. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Obviously, you want to limit those. You don't want to make a mistake that devastates you financially the rest of your life. But most people don't go in with those kind of mistakes. They tend to be smaller. And it's okay to fail yourself forward. But, if you're just going to sit back and just say, I have to get every detail right, I have to know everything and make everything, then what's happening is the people who aren't doing that are already doing what you want to do, and they're making money buying houses and doing all this stuff in real estate investing, and you're still trying to create this perfect system. And all of a sudden time goes by and you could be where they are and where you want to be, thinking they created a perfect system, but they never did. They just took action, and you're just sitting here waiting. And people get afraid to pull the trigger, and I understand why. But you don't have to do anything enormous to get into the game. You can just start by making small steps and being consistent. One small step will lead to another small step, right? It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And just kind of how you have to look at it, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. And that's really the beautiful thing is like, just don't wait. Just take imperfect action and you'll be okay. Like you're going to go through the crap and like, things are going to hit the fan once in a while. Like that's part of the game, and like, as long as
you've experienced that in your first investment, didn't you?
Quite a few times, actually. Still experiencing that.
Yeah, and me too, man. Me too. Listen, it's one thing to wholesale a house. It's another to wholesale a bunch of houses. There's one thing to flip a house rather than owning a company that flips houses. There's one thing to go on appointments yourself. Now having people go on appointments. Like, I didn't wake up one day and said, oh my God, I know how to be a business owner. You know how many times I screwed up being a business owner? You know how many times I screwed up just going on appointments? You know how many times I've screwed up flipping houses? You know how many times I screwed up buying rentals? I mean, I've screwed up everything, but I just keep taking massive imperfect action. And, you learn from your mistakes. And let's face it, I'm a big component of getting coaching, learning from others, being a huge student in this business, and you should never stop learning. But at the end of the day, it's experience that's going to teach us the most. Yeah. So you got to go, learn what you learn, apply that knowledge. But if you don't take any action, apply anything, then you're just a student that never does anything. And then make those mistakes, get the bruises. the most successful people in this industry, now that I've learned and been in the business for a while, they've all effed up a bunch of times. They still do, even if they're in 20, 30 years. They have battle scars like you can't even imagine, but they just persevere and overcome it. And that's what the rest of us have to do, like we do in all other aspects of our life.
You're totally right. It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
And like, I do understand, like, to your point, like why, people might kind of procrastinate and everything like that. And there's actually something, I forget which book it was, man, but I read something about procrastination and, one of the self-help books or whatever, I forget which one, but basically it was talking about a perspective of, like, in a way, the concept of procrastination is a good thing because it's something like, much bigger than you, something scary, like maybe you're kind of nervous to get into it. And, also on the back end, it's a horrible thing, which definitely is the case that, like, it's limiting you from taking action, and you just have to, like, just do it, and you're going to get knocked around, but it's part of the game,
Showing up to school, the first day of school at a new school is scary. Showing up at a new job is scary. Getting a promotion is scary. Everything we do in life is scary, right? Learning how to drive, going sledding, going skiing, you name it. Everything is scary. It's you're usually nervous but excited, right? And that's okay. But if there's a reason why they say you grow outside your comfort zone, right? Because if you just put yourself in a small little bubble where it's just safe and everything else, nothing will ever change. You're not going to grow as a person. Your situation will never get better. And it's understandable to be fearful of things like that. But you got to take action. And and it's okay to fail. I think people are afraid of failing. I've been one of those people. I still have fear of that, but I use it as a motivational tool to make me continuously work every day at getting myself better, no matter what. Like, I don't care how much success that we have. I always have the feeling that it could be gone tomorrow. I never take anything for granted because I've already lost everything. When I was a child, my family went through bankruptcy and foreclosure. We lost everything. As an adult, I almost went through that same experience. So I know, so you just gotta, I don't know, just push through, persevere, and it's okay to be afraid. But I just want people to stop trying to make the perfect thing. There's no perfect deal. There's just no unicorn. Just come on, man. Get into the game, man. Get into the game. You want to? What are you waiting for? Let's go. Let's go make some money. Let's go flip some houses and stuff,
Exactly. And that was definitely something that I, that, I was kind of, fell victim to, I guess, self-inflicted or whatever, is like, before, for like, some of the things that I would try to start, I'm like, all right, like all these systems need to be exactly right. Like, and then I can start, and like thinking about it now, especially after this weekend, guys, thank you so much if you're listening to this, of course. But it's one of those things. It's like, screw it. Like, get like your basic stuff together, like get your stuff going and just run, just do it. Like, you'll figure it out on the way, like jumping off the, like building the parachute on the way down, like
sure.
It's so much more real than like, like just
you'll build it pretty quick then.
Yeah.
Let me share a story with you. My wife Shelly just walked into the room, and it made me think of like a situation. So when we started the business very early on in 2017, when I told you I sold my condo and I had like $6,000 in marketing and to start my business, that's all I had, $6,000. Right? $11,000 is all I did to ever start my business. Everything I'd grown from is $11,000. $5,000 went into coaching. I had to go get an attorney to set up my LLC, get my contracts and all that stuff. But, we were sending out postcards at the time. That was my marketing channel at that time. And, we got everything set up. And this shows you, like, I am not a devil in the details. I just take action almost to a fault. And we set up our first list. It's going to be the absentee owner list. And we're sending out 1,000 letters this week, 1,000 letters next week. After about 1 or 2 weeks go by, right? And this is like 1/3 of the money that I have, maybe even more, like 1/2. All of a sudden I realized the phone's not ringing. Something's wrong. I look at the number. I put the wrong phone number on the postcard. I never proofread it from the mail house. So, we just sent out thousands of postcards and letters, and nobody could call me because I have the wrong number. And I'm like, I don't have much money. So I'm scrambling, trying to find a way to make this number work. It's not available. It doesn't exist. I can't get it. So I have to basically redo that whole list again and put the right number on it. And then people started calling me and be like, I've been trying to call you for 2 weeks, but the number said disconnected. And it was just, but you're thinking, oh my God, it's over. I just started and it's already over. But, we persevered. We ended up getting, one house out of that. And, we wholesaled our first deal for $5,000. And, and next thing you know, you're on the ground and you're running. But it's, talk about making mistakes,
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. And guys, literally, like, just rewind that and listen to that again. Like, like, just go out there and take action, man. Like, like basically, like, just to put everything together, like, just figure it out later. Just do it and run. Yeah, like, wow. So, Jeremy, I do have a question for you, man. So,
Yes,
what's
sir.
kind of your drive and your vision for the long term?
Well, it does change, and it has changed a lot since I've gone into this business, a business. I thought I would just kind of do this with just me and Michelle, and we just kind of run a small operation and flip some houses and buy some rentals. And, I guess the end goal is really to still have a rental portfolio. But, now, I'm growing my companies as we talked prior to this podcast, getting started on this, I'm in the process of scaling both of my locations, and I plan to scale a lot more in coming years, which is something I never anticipated to do. We flipped a bunch of houses, and we'll probably continue to do that. And I still want to buy rentals, and it's just I've kind of bounced all around. But really, my motivation is time freedom more than anything. So the business has really been a way for me to build a life, and it's not so much about financial wealth, which obviously we all want, right? But for us, time is more valuable than the dollar. Obviously, we need the dollar to give us time. I wish I got started at a very young age like you have, and I commend you for doing that, because I would not be on this podcast right now. I can guarantee I'd be doing a lot, or maybe I'd be on the podcast, but I would definitely not be working as much as I do. And I don't really work a ton, I have good systems in place and everything. But my wife and I, we've generated, we built a business the last few years that really gives us a lot of flexibility. So, no matter what's going on with the kids, we're always there. We don't have to go to work today. Heck, we don't even need to set alarms. We do, because we're motivated people to get up early every day, but I haven't had to set an alarm in years. I don't have to get up for anything. I don't have to get up to go to a job. I don't have to get up to answer to anybody. I don't have to do any of that. And no matter what, the money still comes in, right? Yep. But, the time freedom is really, really important for Michelle and I. And as we get older, that time becomes more limited, which makes it even become more precious for us. So, I'm at 46 right now. My goal is to, be in a situation where I'm really out of the business, not out of the business, but out of, they call it the owner's box. I want to be, by the time I'm 50, in the owner's box, have people running my businesses where I have multiple streams of income coming in. So I can just basically go spend time with Michelle, traveling, creating memories with her, and just having great experiences with her, making sure that we spend time with our children, travel as they continue to get older. Our kids are starting to become young adults and older teenagers. So those years are coming to an end, and, soon we're going to be grandchildren. And, we just want to experience all that life has to offer with that, knowing that life is really limited with time. So that is my main force and my main motivation, my driver. Everything I do is to create an income that will allow me to do more and more of that as time goes on.
I love that so much, man. That's awesome. And
Thank
one
you.
of the things that you've probably heard it before, but one of the things that Gordon has said, and it's something that always sticks with me, and I tell him all the time, is one of the things that he mentions is that at the end of the day, like, everybody just wants to be loved. And like, he kind of reinstated that this weekend. We did a very like vulnerable and kind of touching exercise. And he was saying, he's like, this real estate thing, he's like, this real estate thing is a tool to be able to buy the life that you want to be able to spend with the people that mean the most to you. Like, that's
100%.
That's it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's spot on. And he's spot on. And, and I know he recently moved down to the Carolinas, and, he's improving his lifestyle with his family. And I know his story very well. And I'm really happy for Gordon. He's a great guy. Yeah. And, he deserves everything that he's achieved and he continues to achieve. And, he's really great at paying it forward for others as well. I got a lot of great respect for Gordon. A lot of people say, what kind of investor are you? And I really just, for Shelly and I, we're just lifestyle investors. We're investing to create a lifestyle that makes us what we want. Now, listen, I still work. I'm still in the business day to day. on the business, but still in the business, right? Because I have to run teams and we have a lot of things because, we're growing and there's a lot of, as a CEO, responsibilities that come along with that. But I still get to live the life that I want. I mean, there's days I'm like, God, why am I doing this? But then Shelly reminds me, like, remember when you used to work for your boss and you would love to have these problems? I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
you're right. I would, and her and I get to travel a lot, and and even until I was 40, I never really traveled a lot. Real estate has allowed me that conduit to be able to travel a lot, and and we don't do anything really extravagant. Although we went to Greece this year for the first time, that was pretty extravagant for us. We're not very materialistic. We're still very humble. And we probably could even make more money than we want or do now. But we're really about sharing it with our team and allowing people to prosper in our companies. And I'd rather have everybody kind of grow with us and provide value to their lives rather than trying to keep every dollar for us. And and at the end of the day, something that I kind of feel passionate about. I know is a thing like we grow all this money to pass down to our children. Well, honestly, Shelly and I are in really good shape. Knock on wood. We plan on living till like we're 90 to 100. If I can give my kids anything, they're going to be 70 or 80. They're not going to need anything that I give them at 70, 80 years old because they're going to be so old. So I'm not trying to save money to pass down for my family. I know that kind of sounds selfish, but I want to use that money so I have a great life now with my children and my wife. And we want to put ourselves in a position where we can give to our kids while they're younger to help build their lives, whether it's paying for college, helping them get houses, helping them start businesses, help them with whatever their adult entrepreneurial or non-entrepreneurial goals are, rather than saying, hey, when you're 60, 70 years old, I'm going to give you, 15 apartment buildings and, all this money. It's like, it doesn't matter to them, right? They're going to give it to their children maybe. And, we'll probably pass stuff down to our grandkids, but, we're all, and obviously we plan for the future, but not that far ahead in the future, I guess.
I love
that. Makes sense.
Oh, definitely, man. I love that so much. It really is a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? And it's definitely, to enjoy, your life and your family's life and everything now rather than, kind of later on and that type of thing.
Yeah. There's a mentor of mine who I've recently come in contact with because I'm a member of the boardroom named Tim Herridge. And he talks about, one of the things he said, it kind of resonated with me is like, we get into this business to create time freedom, but then we hustle that we don't have any time freedom and we lose sight of why we get into the business to begin with. And we've all been guilty of that, myself included. So I really try to keep that in perspective. It's definitely a delicate balance between trying to get better, try to grow, try to achieve those goals. And, obviously if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So you're constantly trying to grow as a person within your business. But, time is incredibly important, and finding that balance is really tough. But that's why we all do it. It's time freedom, so we can go to our kids' soccer games, be at the presentations that they have at school. If there's a sick day, we don't have to call into somebody and say, hey, I can't get in today, or hey, I need to take a sick day off. If Shelly and I want to go leave on a freaking month, we're just going to leave for a month and go get an Airbnb, take the kids with us. We don't care, and what a gift that is. And if it wasn't for real estate, that would never be possible. I love real estate because of the lifestyle it gives me and Michelle. It's an incredible gift. I feel we talk about, we're rich beyond what we could ever had seen or imagined at any point in our lives because of our time freedom and our ability to spend time together doing the things that we love, especially just spending time with each other, which is our favorite thing to do.
Of course, man. Guys, seriously, like, go take action. Go go invest in real estate. Like, the sky is the limit, my friends. And it's absolutely nuts. It is, like, just to be able to kind of like buy that freedom and buy your time back and, just live the life that we all should be living at the end of the day, and like not being tied down and, asking for a day off in like 3 weeks and being like, oh yeah, yeah.
Hoping you get a 3% raise this year when inflation goes up 12.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people, they get worried about, the real estate market being down right now, down and up, but listen, the market's always going to go up and down. There is no wrong time to get in real estate. There's only the right time. The right time is now. So it doesn't matter if the market's going up, market's going down. The right time is now. There's ways to make money in any market, whether it's up or down. And if you're just waiting for, I'm going to wait till the interest rates go down, and then I'm going to start getting into flipping houses, then, you're going to lose millions of dollars of people who are taking action now, and what I learned a lot, because I got into this in 2017, I learned a lot from the people who took action during the recession in 2009, 2010, 2011. A lot of people lost a lot, including a lot of investors at that time, but there was a lot of investors who positioned themselves well to take action during that time. And those guys and girls are filthy rich now and probably don't even work. They wrote a 10 to 12 year bubble that changed their lives for the rest of their lives, and they can probably just do whatever they want when they want from there on in. So my goal is, and I've been kind of waiting for this downturn in the market, is to position ourselves to take advantage of that. But, we've taken advantage of the market going like this all the way up to the right. For like, is it the right, left? I don't know how they describe that. But going up every year. We took advantage of that. But when it goes down, there's a lot of advantages there. So if you're worried about the market, don't be. Again, just take action, like you said, Kyle. Just get in.
Of course, and that's exactly it, man. It's like just to be able to kind of position yourself to take advantage of both opportunities. Or both parts of the cycle or whatever. And there's going to be opportunity everywhere,
100%.
And, like if you can, if like the market goes down and like, you're able to have like a HELOC open or something like that, or like whatever the case may be, or like, if you're wholesaling or like, whatever kind of is going on, and you're able to have access to capital, in a market where, properties are trading for like 60, 70 cents on the dollar or something like that. Now you can take huge advantage on the buy. And like on the flip side, like the market that we've been in for the past, I don't even know at this point, but, and kind of ride the wave of like people paying stupid amounts over asking and like all the appreciation that's being forced, and you can win all the time. You just have to position yourself to be there.
Yeah. You should know what's going on and what areas to work in and where to be cautious and everything else, but you're 100% right. You can definitely take action. There's always going to be distressed sellers. There's always going to be distressed properties. There are endless amounts of them. You're always going to be able to buy properties way below market value. You're always going to be able to sell them because at the end of the day, there's a housing shortage, not only just here locally, but nationally, right? And so people need housing, and we can never build them fast enough. So there's always going to be a need for them. They may sit on the market a little longer, but somebody's going to eventually buy them. And we know, as when it comes to rentals, everybody needs a place to live there too. And, one thing I would say in this market is the houses are, flipping houses, the values of those houses may go down. The retail market of single families and things like that may go down, but the rental values are going up. So maybe you don't want to get into flipping houses right now because whatever, it's a great time to buy a house, become a landlord, because rental rates are going to go up. So, there's always something to be done there. So,
of course, man, of course. So we kind of dug into this one quite a bit, but I'll ask it again, just in case there's anything else you might want to add. The question I always like to ask everybody is, how do you define wealth? I know we kind of covered that pretty good, but
yeah, how I define wealth is just freedom, time freedom and freedom of my self. I don't have to answer to anybody. Shell and I, we answer to, I can come and go as I please. And, I just having the ability to just have that time, that's the most wealth I could ever have hoped for. I would not want to be a person making $1 million a year and had no time. Right. And also my health, Shelley and I invest a lot of time, energy, and money into our health. And what is wealth without health? Right. It's great. Hey, I'm 55 years old. I have millions of dollars in all this real estate, but I'm one, Big Mac away from dying because I haven't taken care of myself for 20 years, right? So Shelley and I, we have the ability to work out every day, and we make that a priority in life. We eat really healthy foods, and we invest money into gyms and personal training and nutritional coaching and all that stuff that we have the resources to do thanks to real estate, which allows us, again, to live to like 90 to 100 years old. but we love to just be active. We love to have healthy lives, and we love to have time. So that to us is wealth. Wealth is health and time freedom. There's the answer.
I couldn't agree more. So I got one more question for you, man. So
Sure.
do you read, and what is your favorite business, investing, or real estate book that you would
Oh my goodness, there's so many. So yes, I read.
No.
So one of the things that Tom Kroll taught me when I got into Wholesaling Inc., and I wasn't much of a reader before then, it was just to read books every day. And I read every day, and I love reading now. And I've read a ton of books ever since. And I feel empty if I don't read every day. It's just part of who I've become and my routine. And and back in about 2018, I read the Miracle Morning book, which was just changed everything. I've always been a morning person, but this really helped me structure a morning routine that really, really helped just transform my life. So, here are some of my favorite books behind me. Obviously,
traction back there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we learn a lot about business off of that. So I'm gonna pull up a couple. These are mostly just business books, but obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad was the infamous book that gets us all into this. So if it wasn't for that book, I wouldn't even be in there. Miracle Morning, I think is a great book to just build habits, to get your mindset right. It was a game changer in my life. My financial wealth doubled within a year from reading that book, and I'm convinced it's because of the habits that book has taught me. But I'm going to say this one. This is a very different one that a lot of people don't read very often, but it's called Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. I'm a big fan of him. He's a guy who came from Iran. His family fled Iran in the 80s, and he came here as an immigrant and has just, came from nothing and has made something very special of himself. His story I find very inspirational, and I still follow him on social media. I find him very intelligent, very inspiring, and that book is one of the better books I've ever read. So I highly recommend it.
Wow, I haven't heard of that one, man. I'm excited to add that to my list.
It's a great one. I really enjoy it. I reread it every year.
Solid. Those are the best books too. I get a couple of those, Rich Dad included, just to kind of brush up on it like once a year.
Those are my reread ones. I have a whole other bookshelf that's stacked. You couldn't believe it. These are the ones that I reread every year. A lot of them are somewhat business related, not so much personal development related. Because as I continue to get my business is bigger, I do still work on a lot of personal development, but a lot of what I train to do now is to get better at being a business owner and a CEO. So that's where a lot of my dedication goes to from a learning perspective these days.
That's beautiful, man. So a question for you. So I see the traction has made quite the impact. Do you use the EOS for your business?
We do. Yeah, we base our business off the EOS.
Hell yeah.
Another one that we base a lot of our principles off of is this one as well.
Ooh. I'll have to add that one too.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Don Wenner is a real estate professional that has built a huge, huge business. The blueprint to scaling a high growth, high profit business. So, we do kind of a combination of both of those in our business. But more or less, we run an EOS as the backbone of everything that we do. We run level 10 meetings and all that stuff. But there's a few other nuances that we add from that book that's helped us grow a little bit better. So
I love that so much, man. I use the like the EOS, like the forms you can download, like the fillable ones, like I think it was from their website or whatever.
Yeah.
But I use those like literally whenever I like want to try something new, like a new like project or idea or something.
Sure.
Like the vision organizer, man. Oh my goodness. I love that piece of paper so much.
We have we give a traction type PowerPoint presentation with our quarterly meetings to the whole company that talks about our vision and our core values, and we make sure that everybody knows exactly which direction we're going to for sure.
That's beautiful. I love that, man. That's awesome. So I did want to point out too. You mentioned you had an ebook.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, I appreciate you bringing that up. So, this ebook. So if you go to follow us on social media, the best way to get in touch with us would be Couples Flipping Houses. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram. It's Couples Flipping Houses. If you reach out to us there and just say you want a copy of the ebook, one of the assistants on the site will get your email address and we'll send you a free copy of this ebook. But this with little to no money out of pocket. And it basically gives you a step-by-step guide. It's not fun reading, but it's basically a step-by-step guide to basically teach you how to wholesale your very first deal and and get you going on that right track. The little money out of pocket is because you should really get an attorney to do some contracts for you. You should probably get yourself an LLC. So that's where the money comes in, but you can really do it with very, very little money out of pocket and do it legally and ethically. And wholesaling has completely changed my life. You can go from working a full-time job like I did. And even if you hustle and just do a handful of wholesale deals a year, you can drastically change your life from a financial aspect. You can even replace, depending on what your annual income is, your job from a handful of small wholesale deals a year through this ebook. So, we want to just provide that value so people can go read that ebook. We'd be happy to. We've been obviously wholesaling hundreds of houses for many years in many markets and with great success. And if those people want to go find the deals, bring them to us. And when they want to split it 50-50, we'll give them some extra guidance, some extra coaching, and help them along the way. If they don't, they just want to do it on their own, absolutely. But go get this ebook. It could change your life.
I love that so much, man. Thank you so much for coming on here, Jeremy.
Man, my pleasure, brother. I'm really excited about this podcast for you. I know it's relatively new, but, I know you're going to do great things in this industry for years to come. It's going to be fun to watch you grow and prosper, and I'm really excited for your future success as well.
Thank you so much, man. It means a lot. All righty, Jeremy. I will talk to you later on, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.